Hi, this is Short Story Notes, Part 3. There's a new concept here I'd like to introduce. Actually, it's an original concept from me. I have to write about it someday. Someday I'll get it published. But right now, it's just going to be on YouTube for you guys. And the idea is that of condition of being. Of course, that needs explanation. The short story has a philosophical attitude, just generally as part of the genre, and that is that we are all alone. We're different, we're separate, and we face a reality out there that involves society, but sometimes also the world of nature, the world of whatever phenomena is operating beyond our own individual personalities. Now, of course, it's true for us too. We are all separate. We all feel it too. I think, especially as Americans, we feel a little lonely, and we feel separate from the group, and that's because we have been brought up with a stress on somehow expressing our own personalities, our own sense of being alive in our own individual ways. And so the short story, which is this is by and large based in American tradition. Of course, other nationalities deal with it quite well, as you'll find out the more you read the realm of short stories. But here you have an individual character, a man or a woman, or a youngster as well, who has to face a world out there that is not entirely comfortable for them. They may start off in a rather benign way, they may be even happy at first, but somehow there's a mix that comes in and kind of envelops the character. And there you have the makings of the short story in the way that you see the character deal with what lies beyond him or her. So I want you to consider that when you're reading the short story. Consider it also for yourself when you find yourself locked down, as we all are these days with the coronavirus around us. How do you feel? You feel kind of lonely, right? Well, the short story character, the main character in the short story, has got this question presented to him as well, and that is, what do you do when the world starts to seem a little strange? Because the short story does deal with strangeness. Why? Because of the sensation of being alone. It has an eerie quality to it often, and it often has a strange, ironic moment to it as well, because it confuses the character. And the character, of course, has to deal with it in some way. Now, you saw in The Black Cat, the main character deals with his problems in a superstitious way. And there's a certain irony in that as well. Other main characters try to deal with it and sometimes just get themselves caught up in it and don't know what to do. So the question is, what is their condition of being at the end of the story? Now, it's all going to be ironic, and we know the concept of irony, at least from high school. We think about it. We think about it, and it's part of our lives, really. It's part of our appreciation of art, certainly literary art, in our culture. We like to see that little twist. We like to see that disappointment of expectations, or the surprise in expectations as well. It's something that for us, it's a necessary element in art and in our aesthetic appreciation of things. So that's something else I want you to recognize as well. Every story is full of ironies. And that's something I want you to pull out of these next three stories that we'll be reading. The Enormous Radio, which is a lot of fun, I think, and the Garden Party, which is a serious story, but told very delicately as well. And what we talk about when we talk about love. What do we talk about, and what do we mean? Where are we going with this whole idea of love? What is love, and how strange it can be? It's something you want to consider, and you want to consider at the end of that story and the other two stories the condition of being that the main character feels. Is he confused? Does he feel strange? Does he sense that maybe his whole life has been somehow wrecked by this concept of love that he is somehow pursuing? What's the feeling there? And what's the feeling among the other characters as well, within the other characters as well? All right, so I want you to consider that. Now, also, while you're thinking about that, as you're reading the story, subconsciously or unconsciously, you recognize that the story is being told from a certain point of view. Who sees the story as it goes on? Is it the author who sees the story? Is it the character telling the story and seeing it from his or her point of view? And how does that somehow change the meaning of the story? How does it add an element to the story? Sometimes the author of the story takes a very objective point of view, as Hemingway does in The Hills Like White Elephants. Sometimes there's a bit of sarcasm from the author's point of view, and sometimes there's a great deal of sympathy. The same thing with the character as he tells the story. Is it the truth that you're hearing, or just something that is somehow biased because of the narrator's personality? Something to consider in that line then as you're reading. Now, don't forget there are other things as well that you want to continue to see and to make note of, and that is the place and time of the story and how that may also affect what you're reading now. At the end, of course, there's going to be something like a surprise, something like a strange moment, and it's going to relate to the character's condition of being. All right, that's all for now. Okay, bye bye.